You're welcome back. And joining me now in the studio is the Director of Research and Focus on National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Kayode Fabumi. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency had warned that the flood noticed in Niamey is likely to enter Nigeria in a few days. Are you aware of that? And if you do, what are the plans geared towards mitigating the effects of that flood if it eventually gets into Nigerian territory?
Thank you very much. They have predicted flooding at the beginning of the year, and we're having flooding coming from outside the country. Niamey received so much rainfall, and it got flooded. Of course, it will empty the water to Nigeria. Already, some of the flood has gotten to Nigeria. That's why we have flood in Kebbi State. Yes, because the two dams there, Bakolori Dam and Goroyo Dam, one on the river Rima, they have opened the dam to let some water go. That's why Kebbi is flooded. We have one, and we were in Kebbi on Thursday. We just came back today to assess what has happened. Actually, we know that what causes flood, maybe as a result of so many factors, especially it's not only precipitation. We've been complaining, especially in the Sudan and the rainforest in the southwest, for instance. People have been complaining they don't have enough rainfall, and yet we're having flood in the Sahel. Why? Because of climate change. We will never think that Niger Republic will receive such amount of water, but they receive so much water, and it's emptying to Nigeria. We have gotten tremendous support from the Nigerian Air Force because of the lockdown. The airport in Kebbi has not been open, but the Air Force released for us 2 aircraft, one to take the staff there, 2 another special aircraft to do a reconnaissance survey over River Niger. So from Kebbi, they flew from Kebbi to Lokoja, to some part of Kogi State in Ida, and then went back and to survey all the areas that are likely to be affected. So we have taken photograph of it, and we are doing analysis, and we are still warning the people and ensuring that people that are likely to be affected are evacuated.
Okay, now how prepared are the state emergency management agencies towards managing the situation? Because of course, you are on the national side. Are you collaborating in any way? Is there any synergy between you and them? But of late, now we hear that there are flood alerts taking place in localities. While some persons or some families would like to relocate, others insist on not to relocating, because they are feared that their property might be stolen. So how has it been between you and the state emergency management agencies across Nigeria?
Yes, thank you very much. This year, we have gotten serious cooperation with the state emergency management agencies. When the information got to us from NIMET and NISA, what we did was to write letters to all the state governments and send them this document we prepared. We call it disaster risk management implication of 2020. We sent this to all the governors of the federation, and ensure that the letters were delivered. Not only that, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development move from state to state in order to do advocacy. He has gone to so many states, and they are aware, and so we have gone, our zonal offices and operational offices have gone to all the states of the Federation to carry out awareness campaign with SEMAs. We have gotten a lot of cooperation with SEMA this year. Just coming from Kebbi, Blini Kebbi, the SEMA there, they have the people that were displayed, they have put them in a camp in a primary school. They have supplied some food items. So we are just going to support them. We have gotten tremendous support with SEMA this year.
All right. Now, Kebbi State of late was on the news for the flood disaster that damaged homes and farmlands. Nora Tanko Wakili takes a look at the control measures, responsibilities of farmers, and the alertness to areas experiencing flood in the state. Let's take this report. We'll come back to you very shortly.
Thank you.
The state is one of the frontline states affected by a flood, with an average of 13 out of the 20 local government areas affected annually. Between 2016 and 2019, over 221,000 households were affected by flood, while 278,844 farmlands were submerged by flood water. This is in addition to other damages recorded on critical infrastructure, such as roads, schools, and other public utilities. To mitigate this, the State Emergency Management Agency has continued to engage relevant stakeholders on response preparedness and awareness creation along the riverine communities, while over 100 communities have been relocated to upperlands.
If we cannot contain what is happening now, what more of if this country and jeopardize are also often off, how are we going to do? Which way are we going to safeguard life and property of our people?
For this year, 11 local government areas in Kebbi State were predicted to experience flood by relevant agencies, and stakeholders have been briefed on the threat and their expected roles in containing it. And already some communities and farmlands have been submerged, with victims evacuated to nearby public buildings, while others are already counting their losses.
The damage is great, really. And if you ask me to quantify, I will say we have lost quite a lot.
The Kebbi State Emergency Management Agency has already taken on-the-spot assessment of these communities for necessary action, while engaging those at the flood-prone areas for immediate relocation. Nura Tanko Wakili, NTA News.
Like many other states, the NIMET flood predictions put Lagos on the checklist, yes, and because more rainfall is pertinent this year. Therefore, experts are calling for a new approach to drainage and flood management in the state. John Adams has the report.
Ironically, when farmers are praying for consistent rainfall, those living in flood-prone areas are hoping for the opposite. Ezekiel Olayole was once a flood victim.
I remember the last rain that fell. It affected my house. Where? At Ramoni, Lawansi Road. And in fact, we had to pack all our things out.
As pathetic as Ezekiel's story sounds, his predicament and that of many in flood-prone areas of Lagos are inevitable because the state is a low-lying city surrounded by water. Aggravating the challenge is clogging of available drainage channels caused by indiscriminate disposal of waste by residents.
Our drainages are either not wide enough or not adequate enough to deal with the amount of water that happens in Lagos.
The release of water from the Oyon Dam in Ogun State and coastal flooding are dimensions to flooding that compound the Lagos situation.
Know the amount of volume of water you're expecting on the average in the particular months of the year, and plan how to divert part of this water to possibly smaller dams, not for energy generation, but for at least water provision.
We need urban designers, we need architects, we need environmental management people, we need waste professionals, we need so many people to come together and say, look, how we solve this problem.
Many wetlands that would have helped in absorption of flood have been overtaken by development process and buildings to accommodate the growing Lagos population. Experts say urbaning, in addition to strategic flood prevention and management plan, are key in changing the negative flood narrative of families like that of Ezekiel and others in the mega city. In Lagos, John Adams, NTA News.
All right, thank you, Hengino. We're back to the studio once more where we still have Kayode Fabumi, of course, the Director of Research and Focus on National Emergency Management Agency. Now, what other agencies of government are you collaborating with in terms of enlightenment? The National Orientation Agency, for instance, there are other agencies that are perhaps closer to the people, especially in the local areas, where we have a majority of Nigerians reside, and of course where we have even more of the flood that we're talking about, and especially, of course, in the farmlands, where floods have actually washed so many farmlands and crops, like we had in Kebbi last week.
Yeah, disaster management is not a single agency's responsibility. So we are collaborating with so many of government MDAs. The National Orientation Agency, for instance, we have an MOU with them. We are collaborating with Ministry of Agriculture, because you see, when farmers and farmlands are affected, we need to do something. We need to ensure that their livelihood are given back to them. So Ministry of Agriculture will come to help. We are collaborating with Ministry of Health, because after there's flood and people are affected, there can be secondary disasters. There can be, cholera because the waters are polluted. There can be mosquito bites. Like the IDPs we saw in Kebbi, for instance. Where they are camped, we are just going to we are supplying drugs there to ensure that a mosquito net to ensure that they don't have secondary disasters, and especially when in the pandemic. So we are collaborating with every government agency, and we thank, NTA has done so much for us this year. You've called us in most of your programs.
Every year.
Yeah, every year. Every year, actually. You have given us so much attention, which is very good. Of course, we are humanitarians, and every of the opportunity we have, we advocate to people to move, those that are likely to be affected. And
now, are there steps individuals can take to protect their homes in areas that have a high or remote risk of flooding? For instance, in Lokoja area, and of course it's flood prone. Are there measures individual families can take with respect to mitigating the effect of flood? Or perhaps our government is supposed to do that for everyone. I'm asking this question because there are persons or individual families who may prefer not to move from their location, and may likely will take on protection by themselves to protect their property. Is there anything? Is there a possibility for that? And are there materials that could be used by individual families to protect themselves? Are they available?
Thank you very much. The first step to reducing risk is taking individual responsibility. Everybody must take responsibility. So we have what we call flood tips here. There are steps individual can take. For instance, your house can be flooded. Move your document, your papers, your certificate, move them to a higher place. If there is flooding, do not go inside the flood water. You saw the person that died in Lugbe. Oh, he thought the water is not so, but it's not. It has not gotten so high. But the velocity, and again, he doesn't know the depth of the
high current.
The high current. So we have given a lot we can do. If your houses were affected last year or 2 years ago, move to your members of your family, your relative, move and find alternative. In fact, we must not leave this thing to the government. Not only that, as we live in estate, individual families should come together and clean their drains. All the wastages we pour there, we should not wait for government to help us clean the drainages. So these are responsibilities for individuals. Then what government can do is to, if it happens, we have a place where we can keep the people and ensure that they are safe. So we must not think that it is a government responsibility. There are things we can do to reduce our risk as individuals. We have given a lot of tips here. Don't drive in floods. If you can turn back. And if there's flood, move to the roof. In fact, if you can move to the top of the roof, move and call a number. If you can call, we'll be rescued. It's better to do that than to be taken away by flood. We have had so many people that are taken away this year, and we don't want any of such again.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll take another break now. When we come back, the conversation continues. Don't go. You're welcome back, and thank you for staying with us up till this moment. Now, what should be done, to ensure that when the floods arrive in a particular locality, that the impact will be minimal? For instance, if there's a heavy rainfall and people expect that, it could flood, what should be the first step to take?
The first step is to ensure that we listen to warning and the 9-minute alerts. I was, as I said, I was in Kebbi, and the flood, the rain was coming, and people were trying to pray that the rain will not fall again. It will fall. So people should take steps to ensure that they are in a safe place. That's the first thing. If you know your place is liable to be flooded, move away. If it's already flooding, ensure that you turn back. Don't go in. Whatever is in the house, when your life is safe, you can get the property back.
Okay, now release of water from dams, like Lado Dam, is another issue that has been raised. Another issue that has a lot to do with flooding in Nigeria. Now, we're just wondering if it is possible to reach an agreement with the countries, the Niger Basin Authority, on a coordinated release of excess water in the dam to enable us also to see how we can mitigate the flood down here in Nigeria if they eventually release the water. Is there any kind of a collaboration or kind of discussion that usually takes place between the authority and theirs to ensure that there's a coordinated release of water from their dams to enable us to take our own precautionary measures?
Thank you very much. We are planning what we call an after-action review this year. It's not only Lagdo Dam. I'll give you an example. Onyo Dam in Ogun State, it has about 270 million cubic liters of water. And at July, it was full to capacity. And then 5 million cubic of water was released in July. In August, about 10 million cubic liter was released. In September, 18 million cubic of water will be released. In October, 23 million. So this is just on your dam. The same thing with most of our dams. The problem we have is that these dams were built for multi-purpose. We call it a multi-purpose dam, for domestic use, for drinking water, for irrigation, for hydroelectricity. But many of them have not been used to capacity for irrigation. They are also not used for hydroelectricity. And so we continue to impound this water. What we are advocating is that this water should be released in dry season. If you don't want to do irrigation, release the water. Leave the dam and have enough capacity to impound water. For Lagdo Dam, there is cooperation between Cameroon and Nigeria. The Ministry of Water Resources has cooperation with them and MOU. So if they are going to release water, they will tell us. But they have not released this year. That's why we don't have that type of, we are not sure they have released this year, but they have cooperation. But most of our dams, they are already releasing water. Jeba dams, Kanji Dam, because when the water comes from other, they have to. So, but for Jeba and Kanji, we know they are being used to generate electricity, but others are not. So we hope that after action review, we can call in the dam managers and plan consistent and better use of our dams and water resources.
All right, thank you so much, Kayode Fabumi of NEMA, of course, the Director of Research and Focus National Emergency Management Agency. It's been a pleasure talking to this evening on Weekend Fire.
Thank you very much.
All right, demolition of illegal structures at the National Stadium Complex through Lagos continues as Minister of Sports promises a befitting edifice. Olumide Eguntola has this and more.